All right, man, peace. So, brothers, I've pretty much been waiting for the entire media-driven narrative surrounding the death of Mr. Nipsey Hussle to die down before I would make a video on it, because I already knew that my perspective would be something that would be pretty difficult to ingest by the average person unless they had the ability to sit down, reflect on it with a rational mind, and it was explained to them with context. And that's what I plan to do in this video right here. And I thought that it would be very important for me to allow so many of Nipsey Hussle's fans, especially so many of you brothers, since my channel is geared towards the so-called black man, so many of you brothers who followed this dude, to give yourselves a chance to fully ingest exactly what occurred before I made this video, because I'm not quite sure if I've ever seen so much emotion, so much media generated emotion forced upon the masses at large to get them to believe that this person, Nipsey Hussle, was some type of Christ figure or savior. I'm not quite sure if I've seen such a concerted attempt made by so many different factions to try to push a level of martyrdom on a person. Not Tupac, not Biggie Smalls. I've never seen it to this degree, where even the LAPD is trying to lavish praise on this person. And the reason why it was done, brothers, is because he had to be elevated to the status of a hero, because this is a form of social engineering and programming. They're constantly trying to reinforce the image of the quote-unquote intelligent thug on the so-called black community. That is supposed to be the key male archetype that every so-called black man is supposed to be trying to aspire to. Be a gang member who reads books. That's a hero. Open up a pop-up shop where supposedly you're teaching other so-called black people to be entrepreneurs. And allegedly that's saving the so-called black community. Even though you've made 9, 10, 11 mixtapes where every song is you talking about who you're ready to shoot and how much drugs you sold and how you've taken paraphernalia across state lines, so on and so forth. Look, once again, for any of Nipsey Hussle's overly emotional fans, this is not a personal attack against the focus of your ardor. Make no mistake about it. My channel is a pro-truth channel geared towards the so-called black man. And let me say this, with the way in which the mainstream media is trying to get so-called black people to believe that Nipsey Hussle was a hero, there's very little doubt in my mind that this is the greatest commercial, this is the greatest promotion to join the Crips that I've ever seen in all my years on this planet Earth. There are going to be so many so-called black men who join the Bloods and the Crips under the inspiration of so much of the positive reinforcement that's being pushed through the coverage of Nipsey Hussle, that it's going to lead to even more incarcerations and even more deaths of so-called black men all across the country over the next 10, 15, 20 years, if this society lasts this long. But I just want to get to the point, because I'm going to discuss the reasons why Nipsey Hussle was taken off of the quote unquote real world stage, because we're living on a stage right now. Everything that we see is a performance. It's just a real life performance. And from the moment that Nipsey Hussle decided that he was no longer just going to be a mixtape artist, but was going to go back and sign with a major label, he signed his life away. He became someone who pretty much publicly declared himself as a witch and a high-level Luciferian once he signed that record deal with Atlantic and agreed to distribute his music, his creation, his art through that witch coven. And once you sign with a witch coven and they agree to build up your name, build up your fame, that means that you also mutually agree that at any moment they could take you out. You can be quote unquote sacrificed. And that is what happened to Mr. Nipsey Hussle. And at this point, all across the internet, on YouTube, on social media, there are so many people who like to speak about the concept of ritualistic sacrifices and don't really know what they're talking about. Because unless you have a rather in-depth comprehension of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system, you don't really know what you're talking about. You're pretty much like someone who has their eyes closed in a room with no lights. You might have a modicum of an idea where the light switch is, but you really don't know. That's why it's important that people do their research and do their due diligence before they start to speak on things. But when it comes to Nipsey Hussle, the short answer is he was sacrificed to the mother goddess, particularly the moon goddess. But I'll be covering that more in depth in the epilogue of this video. I know that there are going to be a lot of cats, a lot of people, period, who watch this video and say to themselves, what the hell is this dude talking about? First, I'm going to cover this news segment. We're going to address the Nipsey Hussle life, death, removal, whatever you want to call it, from a two-dimensional perspective, and how it affects the so-called black man, especially the the way in which they publicized his demise, the way in which they're trying to lionize him right now. And then in the epilogue, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of how and why he was removed. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Manhunt is underway for the suspect. We will begin with this. The suspect has been identified by police in the shooting death of rapper and neighborhood activist NIPSEY HUSSLE.
Brothers, once again, all an activist is someone with a big mouth and no plan. There's nothing against this cat Nipsey Hussle. First off, he was not even a so-called black man. And this is going to go over a lot of people's heads. There's a major difference between the so-called blacks of the captivity and the various nations of color around the world. Just because you have so-called melanin does not make everyone the same person. In the same way, if you had a Japanese man, a Chinese man, a Vietnamese man stand next to one another and you were to tell them you're all the same people, they're going to say, no, we're not. I'm Vietnamese. Someone else will say, I'm Cambodian, I'm Filipino, I'm Chinese, etc. You understand that? So it's very difficult for so-called blacks of the captivity to grasp this notion because our people have been completely deculturalized. We have no idea who our people are as opposed to who they're not. There's nothing against Nipsey Hussle. There's nothing against him. Seemingly, he was trying to graft himself in amongst so-called black people, and for the most part, he was accepted because he was a low-level Luciferian. What does that mean? He was a Crip. The Bloods, the Crips, all of these major gangs sprinkled all across the United States are low-level Luciferians. What they are cats who don't even quite understand the gravity of what they're a part of. That's why they're playing out this contention between the red and the blue. You're always going to see this theme all across this society, whether it's the Democrats versus the Republicans, whether it's the Bloods and the Crips, so on and so forth. There's always this constant battle between the red and the blue, or the Red Lodge and the Blue Lodge. It's all set up to be a reflection of Luciferian or satanic, aka Saturnian principles. Okay? That's all it's about. And Nipsey Hussle was caught up in that. If you get the chance, check out an interview that Nipsey Hussle did when he was asked, why did he join the Crips in the first place? He has no real answer. The reason why he joined the Crips is the same reason why so many other so-called black men and men of color, period, join these gangs. Because they're not getting proper guidance within the home, and they're not raised in a proper framework, in a proper environment that encourages them to embrace the positive aspect of life, as opposed to embracing the negative aspect of life. Our people are taught to embrace the dark side of life, to believe that that is a reflection of manhood. And that's why I say that what the media is trying to do in lionizing him is extremely insidious, because they know how impressionable the so-called black man is, especially the so-called black boy, who's being raised for the most part by his mother and by the television. You understand that? So when so-called black boys are constantly being told Tupac is a martyr and a Christ figure, and Nipsey Hussle now is the new martyr and Christ figure, what are they going to do? They're going to try to embrace a lot of that gang mentality. Before Tupac was removed, what did he try to do? He tried to associate himself with the Bloods. At least that was part of his storyline. The storyline applied to Nipsey Hussle is that he started out as a Crip, and supposedly he tried to disavow that lifestyle, even though to me, once again, that's something that the media is saying. His lifestyle never showed that. From what I saw, he claimed Crip, and he also claimed a lot of violent aspects of the lifestyle that he chose all throughout his music. That is what he exemplified to me. And once again, brothers, I cannot stress this enough. You have to understand that the dirt that you do in your past is always going to follow behind you, even when you decide to repent. That's the point of repentance, is to give yourself a chance at a better life, while always understanding that the havoc that you wreaked in your past can catch up with you. So don't ever allow yourself to subscribe to that quote unquote intelligent thug program. That shit is not manhood. Okay? That's what they do. They tat all these cats up. They get them to claim that they're gang affiliated. And then they have them partake in a photo shoot where they have no shirt on, and they have a pair of gold rimmed glasses and a book in their hand. And supposedly that's the goal for every so-called black man, is to be an intelligent thug. That's the reason why our people are at the bottom. We're being led by the wrong faction.
Los Angeles police say overnight the gunman is 29-year-old Eric Holder.
Let me say this very quickly, brothers. This person here is a patsy and a Manchurian candidate. Okay? This person was sent by the witch coven that wanted Nipsey Hussle removed. There's no doubt in my mind, and I'm just stating my opinion, my perspective, there's no doubt in my mind that he was working in concert with the LAPD and some other faction, maybe Nipsey's record label, Atlantic Records, to have Nipsey Hussle removed, taken off the proverbial real life stage. Because once again, once you ascend to that level of fame in the entertainment industry, you're a witch, you're an actor. You can be removed whenever they want you to be removed, and they can build up your cult of personality after your demise in an even more lucrative way. Nipsey Hussle is more famous now than ever before. All you have to do is watch some of these videos that have been made about him ever since he's been gone. There's so many simpletons in the comment section. Oh, I never heard of him, but I wish I did. Long live Nipsey. The marathon continues. Everybody's such a fucking drone, man. They're such a drone. People are such drones. They don't have their own brain. They don't comprehend the repercussions of living a deleterious lifestyle. Once again, he was a very public member of a gang. Okay? So-called black man, you don't need to join a gang to be a man. And this is why I make these videos, so-called black man protect your seed. We're supposed to be fighting for one another, not against one another. But the reason why we're against one another is because we have totally divested ourselves of any form of culture. Therefore, we don't understand the concept of consequences for your actions, of respect for your brother, things of that sort, things of that nature. There are so many so-called black men running around with an entitlement persona. Cats have a severe mental handicap where they believe that they are owed things that they have not earned, that they have not worked for. And that's a major problem, a foundational problem in the so-called black community. And there's this repetitive cycle where a lot of these young dudes, they want to join these groups, join these gangs, join these cliques that are going to lead you to nowhere but the prison industrial complex. But just to get back to this video, this person here is a Manchurian candidate. He was sent in to dispatch quote unquote Nipsey Hussle on March 31st, which is a high holy day to the moon goddess. I'm going to be covering that in the epilogue of this video. Once again, for the people who are flabbergasted by what I'm saying or disbelieving pertaining to the things that I'm saying, please wait until the epilogue, and I'm going to explain it in great detail so that you grasp how the veneration of the various components of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system fit into the entertainment industry and to the world at large. People really have no idea what the energies are that galvanized this society.
The suspect's identity was released amid a chaotic memorial for the Grammy-nominated artist.
This was not a chaotic memorial. This was a reflection of the energy that was emitted by Nipsey Hussle in his music. He was an agent of chaos like every other top witch in the entertainment industry in the music world. The energy that is emitted is always about chaos, anarchy, and havoc. That is what they push. That's what they promote. Every song talking about who they shot, how much drugs they sold, who they're going to bang on. And every once in a while, they'll have one song on the mixtape talking about how so-called black people need to start controlling their own life and their own business. And supposedly that's supposed to offset all of the negativity that they're advocates for. No, it does not work like that. And this shrine here is like any other shrine. It's a Luciferian shrine. Once again, Nipsey Hussle, upon his death, was pushed into hero cult worship status. And this is a concept that goes back to ancient Kemet and trickled down into the Greco-Roman world, where you have what they called Greco-Roman heroes who would die by strange means, and suddenly they would be deified. This is what happens in this society with so-called celebrities. Please keep in mind that the word celebrity literally means a star, meaning what? They go up into the celestial sphere. In the ancient world, when a star passed, when he was destroyed, he went up into the celestial sphere and he became known as Orion, the great hunter.
Last night, 19 people were hurt after witnesses say a fight broke out. The sound of shattered glass.
What would you expect? Once again, Nipsey Hussle stated that he was a Crip. What do you think is going to happen when you have people gather together to commemorate the demise of someone who created music that was meant to foment a certain type of energy, no matter how much you try to gloss it over? That is what he was about at the end of the day. And I've heard many of the cats, I've heard many of the cats' songs. I mean, I don't follow hip hop like I used to back in the day. You know, I'm a 90s dude. I'm an early 2000s dude. That's when I stopped really listening to hip hop hard body, but I'm still aware of some of the artists. And I know about Nipsey Hussle. I've listened to some of his songs. There was nothing about his music that stood out to me as being that much different from anyone else. If anything, I could tell that he was trying to reflect back on some of the music that he grew up on, like Snoop Dogg and a lot of the other West Coast artists. But at the end of the day, there was nothing different about him when it comes to the energy that he was putting out there. And whatever energy you put out is what you get back eventually. But just to get back to the point, his quote unquote death or demise per se was not about a so-called beef with someone. It wasn't about someone being jealous of him. It wasn't some gang shit. It was an arranged removal, a ritualistic sacrifice. And they used a patsy who they're calling Eric Holder, a Manchurian candidate who they sent in to dispatch him so that they could appease the spiritual force that galvanizes the recording industry. Once again, I'm sure that it sounds far-fetched, but it is what it is. Once Nipsey Hussle decided that he was going to become involved with Atlantic Records, he pretty much wrote down his name on his own death certificate.
Glass apparently led to a stampede. Hundreds of people had gathered outside Hussle's store where he was gunned down Sunday. Well, Jamie Yukas is there at Los Angeles Police Headquarters. Jamie, good morning. Good morning. Police accuse Holder of shooting Nipsey Hussle and two other men who survived. As many as 400 people showed up Monday night to pay their...
So interesting. Nipsey Hussle is taken out on March 31st at 3:30 p.m. He's shot 6 times and he's 33 years old. Once again, that is how you know that it was ritualistic. Nothing that is done to many of the more affluent witches in the entertainment industry is done by mistake, and they understand that once they decide to partake in that Luciferian sphere known as the music world, in order for them to get on television and for them to understand that they're going to be able to accrue a certain level of fame, they already know who their gods are. They know that they have to make sure that they don't buck up against what they're told. They must embrace the Bacchanalian mysteries, the Osirian mysteries, so on and so forth. And if they show any resistance, they get removed. That's the bottom line to it. Once they try to buck up against what the processes are for maintaining their quote unquote fame, then they get removed. You don't get to become nominated for Grammys and things of that nature and get on soundtracks for big movies and just be a regular nigga. It doesn't work like that. You have to get down with the team.
The respects at the shooting scene when once again panic erupted. For most of Monday, a vigil for rapper and community leader Nipsey Hussle had been peaceful.
That's the major problem. No disrespect, but someone like him is not supposed to be a quote-unquote community leader. Once again, brothers, the real so-called black men have to stand up and lead their communities. You cannot have quote-unquote intelligent thugs leading the so-called black community. They don't know how to plan. Their brain does not function on the level where they know how to plan properly. And I know I'm going to get a lot of people who get upset with what I'm saying. It's okay. It's okay. If you're someone who decided that you were going to embrace a life of crime and you're bettering yourself and you're repenting, that's a great thing. But that's a process that takes a very long time. You can't go from being a degenerate to being someone who all of a sudden is trying to commandeer the so-called black community, especially people who are trying to play that hood card. Oh, you don't know what the hood is like and blah, blah. Man, please. We're all from the hood. And we've all seen losers in the hood. There are people who are from the hood and there are people who are of the hood. And I touched on this component in the Adrian Broner aftermath video after he got his ass whooped by Manny Pacquiao when he said he was fighting for the hood. When Adrian Broner says he's fighting for the hood, what he means is that he's going to fight to maintain nigger nonsense. All right? And we have to eradicate nigger nonsense because it's holding us all back. That's the bottom line. As we can see here, Nipsey Hussle has on the customary red, black, and white for the black mass. He was a witch. All right? I'm not quite sure what stage he was in, but he certainly was a witch and a quote-unquote Mason, a Luciferian.
But shortly after 8 p.m., something caused the crowd to panic. Most of the 19 people injured were caught up in the stampede that...
Look at all these idiots. All idolaters. Every last one of them.
...that followed. Many were treated at the scene.
Look at this guy. They got him on a damn gurney having to give him CPR. All because he worshipped another man.
Scene.
And brothers... Everything is about numerology. And you see many of these dudes on the internet trying to push numerology. Numerology is relevant, but you have to understand what it's pertaining to. The numerological aspect is pertaining to the veneration of the horned god and the mother goddess and their son. That's what it's always pertaining to. So you're going to see certain numerical themes. They could have removed Nipsey from anywhere, but the reason why they removed him from that location in the way that they did is because, once again, the fire department that is associated for that district is the 66th Fire Department. Okay? He was killed at 3:30. He's 33 years old, and he was shot 6 times. They were trying to let anyone with an ear to hear understand that he was, quote unquote, sacrificed to the god Pan, who was also his god as well. And let me say this also. His consort, his so-called wife or girl, Lauren London, she's aware of what happened to him. She knows why it happened. Do not be surprised to see her career escalate after this, because she's garnering a lot of acclaim. Once again, she knew that Nipsey Hussle was going to be removed according to the dictates of the industry. He was going to be sacrificed to the moon goddess. He was not the first celebrity to be sacrificed to the moon goddess. He will not be the last. And Lauren London actually played the role of the moon goddess. But we're going to check that out. We're going to evaluate and examine that in the epilogue for this video.
2 patients are in critical condition. 1 hit by a car, and another with what officials are calling a penetrating traumatic injury.
A bunch of idiots. Brothers, let me say this. Let me say this real quick. And I'm sure that many of you think that I'm being a little bit too hard on a lot of people who are associated with this event or this narrative. I'm really not. We have to start being harder on our people so that we can separate those who are worthy to be salvaged from those who are not. Because a lot of these niggas got to go. All right? A lot of them got to go. They're slowing our people down. They're like a big ass heavy book bag, and a lot of them have to go. They either have to be reformed or removed. That's the bottom line.
Police say some in the crowd resisted orders to disperse. While we were clearing the area, there were rocks and bottles being thrown at police officers.
I'm not surprised one bit. As they state, you can tell a tree by its fruit. So if the fans of a certain artist or an idol decide that they're going to project that level of anarchy and chaos, we know what the artist was about. So once again, no matter how much they try to gloss over the energy that Nipsey Hussle emitted, what emanated from him, no matter how much he tried to conduct himself as if he was some type of activist thug or what have you, who was part Eritrean, part black. That's the storyline regarding his lineage, whatever. Either way, his fans are conducting themselves in that fashion for a reason.
Officers, we have at least 1 officer that was injured tonight.
Back to back, we put a curfew on him.
Once again, we see the red, black, and white theme. That's always for the black mass. Particularly when I say that's always for the black mass, I'm speaking about the entertainers within the witch coven known as the quote-unquote entertainment industry.
People at the vigil honored Nipsey Hussle as more than a Grammy-nominated musician, but also for the good.
Red, black, and white. Isn't he supposed to be a Crip?
The good he did for his South Los Angeles neighborhood. Community leaders and fans set up memorials outside his clothing store.
Brothers, let me say this once again. I cannot stress this enough. So-called black people love to talk about what a so-called black or so-called person of color celebrity from a particular allegedly disenfranchised environment does for the hood. The best thing that you can do is do for yourself and do for your children, and not wait for the next man to do something for you. And that starts by putting the fucking weed down, not focusing on the video games and the wrestling so much, especially when you're not where you want to be in life. Once you get to where you want to be in life and you want to play video games all day and watch wrestling all day, that's your business. But you can't sit back and let life pass you by and then get upset by someone who actually put their best foot forward and claim that they're a sellout. And then on top of that, for someone who decides that they do want to come back to an environment that has a cesspool mentality, all of a sudden, not only are you going to very disingenuously claim that they're giving back to the hood, but then try to set that person up. So there's a very toxic mentality that pervades the quote unquote hood and many so-called black communities that has to be eradicated. This is before we say anything about the so-called white man. Everybody loves talking about the damn white man. And And is that an issue? Sure it is. But it's nowhere near as big an issue as the things that we must resolve first. And that starts with every individual, starting with me, starting with you, how you conduct yourself in your household, whether you live by yourself or whether you have a large family. That's what we need to focus on. Now, who's opening up pop-up shops and selling apparel, and supposedly that's supposed to mean that he's changing the hood and all this other stuff, and he's starting an after-school program. Brothers, if we have children when we're ready, when we know that we can provide for the child, we would not need someone to start an after-school program. A lot of our people are making bad decisions. The more disenfranchised we are, the more scrupulous we have to be when it comes to making decisions. It's not that difficult to figure out, man.
Where he was gunned down Sunday.
I'm heartbroken. He had a very positive message, and
Yeah, his message was so positive. Gang bang, shoot niggas, and sell drugs. Sure. And once again, I know a lot of his fans are going to say, what are you talking about? He had songs that were trying to implore the so-called black man to become an entrepreneur and understand the value of money and real estate and items that appreciate as opposed to depreciate. All that's well and good. But the veneer was something of self-destruction. We have to attack and address the Luciferian concept of the red versus the blue. Even her hat is evoking that right now. You understand that? And she's really trying to promote her own show. She's going to show you that in a minute. Matter of fact, let's let this run.
and just shocked and just
You see how she grabbed her hat? Because she wanted everyone who was watching to focus on her hat. I guess she's a part of the G-Hype show.
in disbelief.
You lost a legend and a pillar of this community.
Let me rewind this back a little bit.
First, we have at least one officer that was injured tonight.
Back to back, we put a curfew on him.
People at the vigil honored Nipsey Hussle as more than a Grammy-nominated musician, but also for the good he did for his South Los Angeles neighborhood.
Every time you turn around, every website that you go to that's geared towards so-called black people, they're trying to put this person up on a pedestal and lionize him and try to act as if he was just the smartest person in the history of quote-unquote black America. I saw one website where they gave you Nipsey Hussle's reading list. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Some little black girl just got shot, somewhere in some hood all across America. And it's going to get nowhere near the attention from so-called black people as this person Nipsey Hussle has gotten. And I understand it. I mean, don't get it twisted. I understand the context. An artist is going to be able to touch your spirit more than a regular person. So that's why they get more attention. I grasp that. My point is this. We have to be as invested in the things that matter to us, the things within our homes, as we are to, the people who we don't even fucking know. 99.9% of people do not know Nipsey Hussle apart from the image that he put forth on his albums. So why are you getting so caught up spiritually, mentally, and emotionally in what is occurring in his life, especially when you could pretty much predict what was going to happen to him? Now, if I hear a story about Stevie Wonder getting gunned down outside of a pop-up shop, I'm saying, what the hell happened? Who the hell want to shoot Stevie? But if I hear a story about Nipsey Hussle getting gunned down, I'm not shocked by that. This notion, oh my goodness, it was so shocking what happened to Nipsey Hussle. No, it wasn't. Why would you be shocked by that? He's been trying to promote gang life for a very long time now.
Community leaders and fans set up memorials outside his clothing store where he was gunned down Sunday.
I'm heartbroken. He had a very positive message, and just shocked and disbelief.
You lost a legend and a pillar of this community.
Now look at this. This person, David Price, it says here that he's a part of the First African Methodist Episcopal Church of Los Angeles. So in other words, what? He's a so-called black preacher. What that really means is that he's an opportunist. He should be speaking about the Most High in Christ. That's what he should be saying. If he's going to go out there and speak, the message that he should be communicating to the people is what happened to Nipsey Hussle is because he was trying to promote violence, drug dealing, and a gangster lifestyle. And if you don't want to end up like him, don't join a gang. But he does not want to get on their bad side. He probably does not want to get shot himself. And he's hoping that he could take some of the energy from Nipsey Hussle and bring it over to himself. And that's why I'm calling this video the Nipsey Hussle Hustle. Because there are so many prominent so-called black people and celebrities in general who are trying to act as if they care that Nipsey Hussle was removed from the scene, that he was shot and killed or what have you. They're trying to act like they're all his best friend so that they can get more likes on Twitter and on Instagram and on Snapchat or what have you. It shows you how wicked people can be. Because when you're going to talk about someone dying, if you don't know them, of course you're going to have a certain amount of pity or what have you. But at the end of the day, there's only so far that you can go if you don't know them. And it's far more important when you understand the reason for their demise, whether it be because they took a road that was dysfunctional or was going to almost unerringly lead to calamity, that you place it in its proper context and use it as a teaching moment or a teaching tool for other so-called young black men, rather than trying to commemorate his life like he was a fucking hero. Because all that's going to do is get other so-called black men to join these gangs and lead them down that road to being incarcerated or being dead.
Who loved us, who cared for us.
Surveillance video.
A lot of times so-called black people, they sound like a prostitute on the corner. He loved us, he cared for us. That tells me that maybe you're not getting enough love in the home. Our people are always so worried about how much love the white man shows us. Forget the damn white man. The hell with them. How about how much love you're showing yourself and how much love you're showing your family and they're showing you? We have to start with that. The so-called black man feels no love from other so-called black people, and they try to project that on the Caucasian. If our people treated one another how we're supposed to treat one another, we would not be so concerned about what the white man thinks.
Video shows the moments leading up to Nipsey Hussle's murder on Sunday. A man whom police believe to be Eric Holder.
A man who they're calling Eric Holder, who is a Manchurian candidate, a sleeper agent. Certain people might be saying, what is a Manchurian candidate? A Manchurian candidate is basically a mind-controlled assassin. What they do is they take them, whether they're locked up, incarcerated, or they're in a psychiatric facility, and they put them under mind control. That means what? Sleep deprivation, administering LSD or other hallucinogenic drugs, torture, sometimes sexual abuse, electroshock treatment. Once they create the altars, they install the triggers, and they tell them who the target is, how they're going to kill them, at what time, and on what day. That's how that's done. Okay? It's known as a Manchurian candidate or a sleeper cell assassin. That's all that means.
Approach Nipsey. People scattered as shots are fired and Nipsey fell to the ground. Police believe Nipsey knew the shooter.
This was not a chance encounter. We don't think that this was a sudden engagement.
Of course, he's going to say that because the LAPD want the people to believe that this was some gang shit. It was either a beef that was involving two Crips or a blood against a Crip. That's how they can explain it away and once again push all the focus on the ineptitude of the so-called black community. When in reality, I'm sure that if he does not know what happened, one of the higher ups in the LAPD know what happened, because many of the police chiefs are low-level Luciferians and the police commissioners are moderate or high-level Luciferians and sometimes undercover intelligence agents themselves, who very much have an understanding and a command of the technology involving the Manchurian candidates or the sleeper assassins or what have you. That's the easiest way to remove people that you want to have removed, and there not be any footsteps leading back to you, because you program the assassin to commit the act, and then they forget the exact parameters that surrounded how they were programmed or how they even got there in the first place. And now they're forced to face the judicial system and they go to prison, and problem solved.
We want the community to turn Nipsey's murderer in, because to us, this ain't snitching. It's about being held accountable for your actions.
Police have not announced a motive in Sunday night's shooting. Nipsey Hussle did admit to ties to gangs as a teenager.
No, ma'am. Nipsey Hussle was claiming Crip all the way to the end of his life. Please stop it. Please stop it. Once again, I've never seen someone who publicly was associated with a gang get such positive treatment by the mainstream media, by the police departments, etc. That's how you know that there certainly is something rotten in Denmark when it comes to this overall narrative. They're trying to push the energy of the intelligent thug on the so-called black man. The mainstream media, for the most part, is overtly liberal. So now the coverage of the removal of prominent black celebrities is always going to be covered in a very positive fashion, because they want the so-called black man to believe that they're on his side. At the end of the day, this is always about money. Nipsey Hussle most likely was going to leave Atlantic Records after this album and go back to just moving units independently. And they cannot have that. We're not going to allow you to be nominated for a Grammy and walk on our red carpet and then think that you're going to own your own masters. No, that's not how this works. That's like a prostitute who's a bottom bitch. She's making all the money for the pimp, and all of a sudden she tells the pimp, I'm going out on my own. That pimp is going to say, over my dead body, bitch. That's how that works for a lot of cats who don't grasp that. They did not like a lot of the messages that Nipsey Hussle was teaching through his music. Even though most of it was negative, yes, he did also speak about entrepreneurship. And that's not a business paradigm that the record company can survive. If all of the talent is now trying to sell their own music and make all their own money, own their own intellectual property. So there are a lot of reasons why he was going to be removed.
We should learn more here at the Los Angeles.
And let me also say this. This notion that he was removed over Dr. Sebi, give me a break. The white man is not concerned with niggas learning about Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi been around for almost 40 years. Anybody who was going to get down with the Dr. Sebi program has already gotten down with it. In order for you to adhere to a lot of the stringent programs that are associated with the Dr. Sebi diet, not only do you have to become a vegetarian, there are only certain types of vegetables that you can eat. You cannot even eat hybridized vegetables. A lot of the vegetables that are, that we believe are healthy are actually hybridized. Things like carrots and broccoli, etc. Those are hybrid. Spinach, those are hybridized vegetables. I mean, most black people would rather die before they stop eating pork. Much less be concerned with finding actual natural vegetables and roots and things of that nature. So this notion that they removed Nipsey Hussle over Dr. Sebi, that's ludicrous.
Los Angeles Police Department during a press conference later on this morning. John?
All right, Jamie, thank you.
But anyway, peace.